Jennifer Bryant. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. So, for the people who don't know, Jennifer Bryant is my best friend. We met at Howard University. I always tell the same story. We met the first day of college, and she lived across. I see some people from Howard joining in. That's what's up. So she lived across the hall from me in Fraser Hall. And so we've been friends ever since. We traveled the world together, um, been through a lot together, and I'm just so grateful and so proud of you and all the things that you're doing. So I just want to like highlight
Proud
you.
of you.
Thank you. So, okay, so tell us who you are, more bio worthy, who you are, what you do.
Yeah. Before I do that, I just want to give thanks. It's been such a beautiful day. I actually am just coming off of the SNCC Legacy Project. Um, was doing a call on Black organizing, and so I just am coming from that call feeling really energized. Today's DC Emancipation Day. I'm
Yes.
just feeling energized by like everyone that came before us. So give thanks to the ancestors, and I'm just happy to be here, happy to be alive. COVID can't keep me down. So yeah,
Yes.
I'm just giving thanks. But I'm Jen, and I live in DC. I've been doing work around cooperatives for the last few years. I'm super passionate about Black economic self-determination and just how can we, especially in the midst of this crisis, but even before that, like how can we build a new economy that works better for all of us, that is not exploitative, that's not rooted in capitalism at its foundation, um, that really honors our gifts. And so that's the work that I do.
Wow. I mean, I'm not surprised, but like, I, I love it. And so, I think I'm also curious because, like, how did you evolve into this work that you do?
Mm. I actually, when I was in my 20s, I've always really been interested in economics, but when I was in my 20s, I got a job at a Black business women's nonprofit. And, I was very like Black business, and I still think we should support Black businesses. But that nonprofit, we worked with a lot of really large Black women owned businesses. And I think what I saw from that is, you know, traditional businesses really have a trickle down sort of model.
Yeah.
So they benefit the owner, they don't necessarily benefit, the folks that work there. And so it really made me interested in community wealth, and not to knock Black businesses, because Black businesses historically employ more Black people than other, businesses do. So, but I do think that there's something to be said about community wealth building, and that's something that job made me really interested in. At the same time, when I left there, I got involved with labor organizing with the Black Workers Center, and it really showed me, in DC, we have the Black unemployment rate is double that of the white unemployment rate. And so it really showed me that, traditional businesses aren't going to be able to employ everyone in our community that needs to be employed. So I got really interested in how we could create work for ourselves and how we could create work that is centered on empowering and enriching everyone, not just the boss. So how can everyone be owners? How can we share ownership? And that's how I got into cooperative organizing.
So we had a conversation a couple weeks ago, and I was just there. I think I've always been curious about this like cooperative business ownership stuff, but then also like not really fully understanding how it works in practice. So that's one thing, that's one question. And other people, if y'all have questions, feel free. This is like, you can actually push that, like there's like two boxes with a question mark. You can type in your question and then we can try to answer it. throughout. But so, like some of y'all know, now that I work at Wake Forest, we work with a network of pastors, and the pastors, the idea is to be able to pull together assets from all of the churches in Forsyth County, Guilford County, um, and to be able to like pull all of our resources, like how many church vans y'all got, how many do you have, a food pantry over here, you have a kitchen over here, how do we work together to like promote health and well-being. Now, as this coronavirus stuff has happened, it's made it even more important for us to have established this network. But what I still see is people sticking to many of the faith leaders are still sticking to this like individual, like I gotta keep my own church open kind of thing. But what I think is fascinating is it's like this is an opportunity for us in this pandemic, like to think about new models of like operating, and not just operating as an independent business, but like what does it look like, especially because we're the hardest hit all the time, always. Like what does it look like for us to collectively pull together our resources to survive and thrive? So I'm just curious about your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that, historically cooperatives have always thrived in moments of crisis. The and after the Great Depression, there was a huge boom in cooperatives. In DC, we saw it here with Nannie Helen Burroughs, but other parts of the country too, the West Coast, the South. Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhart's book, Collective Courage, talks about a lot of that lineage of Black cooperative history. And a lot of it is rooted in times of crisis. I think, though, that, we live in a capitalist system, and it takes time to unlearn um, the individualism that we've kind of internalized. And there's a lot of, capitalist values that we've internalized. But I think the beauty of cooperatives is it gives you an opportunity to practice new values that I think will be useful in the society that we're building. And, when I went to Cuba for the first time, something that really struck me was before they launched the revolution, they spent months and months just sitting around saying, what is the society that we want to build for post-revolution? And how can we begin to move towards that now? And I think that that's something that we have to do. If we want to build a society that's better than the one that we have now, what can we be doing now to start to move towards that? And I think cooperatives are one way that we could do it. And there's lots and lots of resources, about how to start cooperatives. There's a lot of financing to help you start cooperatives. We just launched a $40,000 grant program in DC for early stage cooperatives to help them get off the ground, cooperatives led by Black people and other people of color. So there's lots of resources online. Becoming Employee Owned is a really good website that has all sorts of resources. The Democracy at Work Institute has all sorts of amazing resources about how to start one, how they're different from traditional businesses, and examples of them, etc.
Okay. So what are you working on creatively? I mean, that's what you do for work, but what's your creative process right now?
I've been thinking about that. Like, I have hobbies, but really, I spend a lot of time, like, in a moment like this, I've really been at home, like, actually doing work. Because I do feel like organizing is creativity. Like, we're
Yeah.
really visioning, like, what is it going to be after this? And I think that we're in a moment where anything is possible. And so it's like almost like it's like creative writing. It's like fiction. It's like thinking about, what is the world that we want to build. So this has been my like creative outlet, this work.
Yeah. So I don't, and you feel free to not go in this direction if you don't feel comfortable, but I'm curious about, like, you've done a couple, you've started some things and like grown them really, really big. And then, so I'm just curious, especially about South Eats, like just as the theme today is about Black food, right? And like Black
Yeah.
businesses and Black food. So can you tell like what's going on with that? What is it? for people who don't know?
Yeah, so I partnered with 3 other people that live in Southeast DC. We all live in Southeast, which is largely, still Chocolate City. It's a predominantly Black part of DC. It's also an area of the city that has the highest concentration of food deserts. And so we wanted to figure out, how can we build a model where we're delivering food to people, similar to like um, Blue Apron and stuff like that, prepared meals, but that it's accessible to people who are on EBT and SNAP, and also is a business. Our food system east of the river in Southeast is dominated by nonprofits. And so we wanted to really go beyond like the nonprofit industrial complex and figure out, how can we create a food system and return to a food system that's self-determined, that is led by Black people, that is sourcing food from Black farmers. And so we decided to create a worker-owned cooperative called South Eats. And we launched a pilot of it at the end of last year that went really well. We partnered with a apartment complex called Arborview. And, we did meal delivery with them for 8 weeks, and really learned a lot about, what type of foods people like, what type of foods they don't like, about, just the logistics of working out of a commercial kitchen, etc. And so went back to the drawing board this year and are planning to relaunch in June. And COVID has impacted that a little bit, but we're still planning to relaunch in June and are figuring out the logistics of that. There's so much that goes into it in terms of like figuring out unit pricing and
Right.
cold storage and last mile delivery and all of that stuff. So it's just been a learning lesson.
And y'all have mentors, or is that through Robert Wood Johnson? You have mentorship?
Yeah, so we got an initial $100,000 from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and they also connected us with some mentors, like the director of the Prince George's Chamber of Commerce is one of our mentors, and we've just been, the folks that I'm partnering with are really deep with like the Black Food Security Network and all sorts of like grassroots food justice organizations locally and around the country. So they're already kind of looped into a lot of the Black farmer spaces. My background, like I said, is cooperatives. And so I've been really focusing on that side of the business.
Ooh, you're so dope. Okay, so the other questions that I usually ask are, okay, so we talked about the creative. We talked about, so what are you doing to like maintain balance for health and wellness right now, especially during the pandemic?
Well, pre-pandemic, I was really into Orange Theory, but that shut down. So I've been, there's all sorts of free workouts. I've been doing free workouts on Peloton, like outdoor runs and stuff. But like week 2 of the pandemic, I found out that they deliver Ben and Jerry's ice cream pipes on DoorDash. So that's kind of thrown me off.
Look, that's self-care. I have pints of Talenti in my freezer, and I'm like, don't judge me. I'm gonna eat at least 3 or 4 or 5 spoonfuls of ice cream.
I have been crushing this ice cream, but yeah.
That's
helping.
But you're always about like kind of your energy and your space. I know most people can't see your space right now, but like it's super chill and like very feng shui and like so
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I can imagine that like that also kind of contributes to your wellness, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so have you seen anything interesting, funny on social media or TV or whatever this week? What's going on?
Well, one, I feel like my high school group chat has been very lit this week. That has been hilarious. But also definitely Insecure, which we talked about.
Okay,
I
wait, we
enjoyed
gotta talk about it.
but the full size when Issa was with the big dude at the beginning, I was it's hard being single in quarantine, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, it is hard. We have had several conversations. So there's ongoing conversation between some of Jenny and another one of our friends, best friends, about like, okay, so how do we figure out the social distancing and stay safe? But you just gotta accept it. But yeah, so like Issa and the big dude. So like, okay, flashback. So Jasmine is saying Issa and big dude flashback. Um, the it's not even that he's big. That's the issue. It's like, who is he? Why? Like, is he just somebody you ran into down the street? Like, what's going on with that?
Honestly, I always thought big men were attractive, so I was
Yeah,
here for it. But yeah, but Issa does definitely pull randoms out of nowhere. Like, who
yeah.
is he?
Like, what are you doing? But yeah, insecure. That's gonna be the conversation for like the next 12 weeks.
No, nothing else to do. So
Right.
I'm looking forward to it.
TSA Bay. All right, Jenny, I love you. Thank you for joining.
Yes, I love you too, and I'm looking forward to hearing the other folks. I was looking at their IG, and their project looks really cool, so I'm excited
Yeah.
to listen on that one.
Okay, cool.
All
So,
right, bye.
bye. So next up we have